Right. So the last panel, one of the questions was something along the lines of what are the misconceptions, or when you're talking to policymakers, what bad questions do you get, or something like that? I don't remember.
All of them.
No. And Matt said most of the ones that we work with are really smart and thoughtful. And I will tell you that Adam 1000% falls into that category. It's I'm just being honest, it's a breath of fresh air when we have conversations, because you're very inquisitive, you're thoughtful, you've done the research, you know what you're talking about. And so I've set you up for nothing but failure from this point. Yeah. Let's try another one. Try this one. We got 3 of them.
Can you all hear me? Okay, we're good. Okay.
So we've talked a lot today about AI on the network. We've talked about AI in the network. We've talked about the importance of smart policies to get it right. And so just want to talk to you as somebody who I know is a policy expert, but also somebody that spends a lot of time on the technology side and working with different companies across our ecosystem. So from where you sit at NTIA, what is NTIA's expectation for AI and wireless? How much, from your perspective, will it change wireless as we know it?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. No chance I live up to the introduction that you've given me. How will AI change things in wireless? I mean, I would start by saying that the folks who know the answer to that question are much more likely among you than sort of sitting in DC, meaning we should be taking our lead from industry. We should, as a general matter, be crafting policy that is responsive to technology. That is not to say that we shouldn't have policy preferences that align with the strategic value that we see in AI in wireless, and serving the American people and advancing American tech dominance and all of those things. But how that's going to work is going to be largely down to y'all. Now, I have some thoughts around it. I think generally speaking, I am very excited about AI in the network management space, and frankly in the air interface space. So I think AI in the RAN for 6G. You could imagine a scenario in which right now, as you know, your network engineers, they will go out and they will carefully tune and manage and orchestrate the spectral environment between and among carriers in sort of local areas. They will sort of play nicely in the sandbox for the most part, but you could imagine a scenario under which an AI-powered RAN, for instance, has sort of on its own developed the air interface in some area, whereby the orchestration of frames and of spectral usage and so on, maybe even like beam forming, this kind of thing, managing the spectral environment is done in a relatively automated fashion, obviously with network engineering help and oversight and so on. But that alone is kind of significant. I think also, there's this push to, obviously we're in the age of generative AI and everyone's very excited about it. And, our administration is starting to play a lot with Sora right now. We're making some fun memes, actually.
Careful.
What I can say is there's a push to try to draw as much inference as possible to the device. Very often we have a conversation around AI and how telecommunications needs to enable AI. Of course, that's true. And that's true in the spectral environment. And that's true in the wired environment. It's true, in order to have AI, you need to have connections. That makes all sense in the world. And yet right now, I think for the most part, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, from the mobile device, the sort of killer app is like, let's say it's GPT, right? Like I'm on GPT Plus, paying my, and I do, because I'm a power user. I asked GPT, hey, where am I ranked in like users? And it's like, oh, you use GPT all the time. It's like you're in the top 100,000. I'm like, there's 800 million users. There's no shot that's true that I'm in the top 100,000 of 800 million. And it turns out it gives the same answer to everybody, actually, which sort of like worries me a little bit for, is it hallucinating all of the advice that it gives me? But what I'm doing is I'm generating basically a textual string that gets sent out over a wireless network. As you know, that's data sipping. Then the inference happens somewhere, and when it's a string back, that's not a lot of data actually. However, that's not where it's going. Where it's going is images and video. And if all of a sudden, and by the way, it's like the outputs are not like optimized in the same way that like YouTube codecs are very good and Netflix codecs are very good at delivering a 1080p experience at like, just a fraction of the data that it cost years ago. When you get a video from like ChatGPT, and I'm sure they'll get better at this over time, but it's not optimized in that way. Consequently, all of which is to say that when I'm getting data on the downlink, that's video, all of a sudden there's a much more intensive data demand. And then I'm going to start sending video on the uplink, And again, I want something analyzed. I want them to respond to some kind of, news article or something. What is this? Can you tell me what this is? So just in terms of data management, it does become an issue, right? It will quickly become an issue. I'm not saying it's going to swamp or overwhelm our networks. Y'all are very good at this. But I do think that just continuing to deliver a really good UE experience, you're going to need to enable AI with Spectrum, going to need to enable AI with further network build out, further wireline build out. And yeah, it's going to become a challenge for sure.
Well, and your agency, is this working? Yes. And your agency will play a major role in that, obviously, with spectrum policy, with federal spending, with permitting policy, et cetera. And we appreciate the focus that you're putting on that. You mentioned ChatGPT. Apparently you're a power user. Is that what you said?
That's what ChatGPT says. I'm not sure that that's true.
Okay, that's cool. Besides sort of, and you mentioned sort of the textual usage of it today, as you sort of talk to different business leaders and do your own research at the agency, are there other ways that wireless infrastructure will enable new types of AI applications? Like what other kind of applications are you thinking about?
Yeah, so eventually we are going to all be driven around by like driverless Waymos, right? That's not today, but that's soon. So you
can think that's soon?
Yeah, I do. I like soon as in measurable in decades. What I will say is, I don't mean decades plural. I mean within a decade. That's my.
Have you been in one?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it's cool and it's a little weird, but I think that the long pole of the tent is, and I just sort of heard this on the way out from ARPAN, is it's going to be regulation and culture. I talked to my mom about this, and I was like, Mom, like, eventually I'm going to buy you one of these things. And she's like, because she was like, the Powerball I think was recently like $1 billion or whatever, and she said, if I won that, like, I'd get a driver. That'd be great. I was like, well, we can get you a driver. It's not going to cost $1 billion. Like, we can just get you a driverless car. And she's like, ain't no way. And I was like, Mom, first of all, I know, I've seen you drive recently. Like, it's definitely safer than you. I don't know if it's safer than average, but it is an absolute improvement over status quo ante.
All driverless cars in Florida, 2026.
Yeah. There's a good South Park episode called Gray Dawn that I advise you all to check out if you haven't seen it. It's about this very topic. Anyway, so But so you can do a lot of info, and you see like Waymo's got the little thing that's like, you know, their radar system, their radar, LiDAR, synthetic aperture radar. It's a lot of data, actually. It's a ton of data. And you can do a lot of that inference because a car is pretty big. So you can do a lot of the inference there. But when it comes to like orchestrating large fleets, right, within an urban environment, eventually you're going to have to push some of the inference to the edge, right? And so this is still very urban, but like, you know, you have some kind of like utility pylon that has, you know, some network equipment in it and some antennas in it and so on, but it has the ability to push out the compute. And why is it important to have it here as opposed to some data center somewhere? It's a situation where milliseconds matter, where probably microseconds matter, right? And that's going to be really, really, really important. And that is going to be, and that's not just going to enable the orchestration of fleets of vehicles, though it will. Like maybe that's how we manage drones. Like there are, and you know, frankly, like just getting the spectral environment right in urban areas to possibilize all of this stuff is going to be monster investment, as you all know. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be, again, the sort of bricklaying level of AI that telecom provides is going to be really, really important.
Don't mind if I put glasses on, do you?
Oh, there you go.
Is this cool? Do I look good?
I'm reserving comment on that.
Well, you don't mind if I stream this, do you, right now?
That's fine.
I can stream it live to my mom on WhatsApp?
Go for it.
Awesome.
Hi, Mom.
I actually do stream things live to my mom on WhatsApp using these glasses. And I feel really weird right now, but I'm going to go with it. So, you know, she lives in Florida. We should talk about your ideas. Mm-hmm. And she can't watch her grandson play soccer, right? But she can now because I put these Meta AI glasses on. I click a couple buttons, and she's literally seeing what I'm seeing, and I don't have to be that guy. Sorry. And you don't want to hold the phone up, right? You just want to watch. And so she's now watching the game through my eyes. That's pretty cool. I don't know if John's still here from Qualcomm, but hey, John, they organized a meeting for me with some of their leadership in San Diego at their headquarters. And I was meeting with the head of research who was working on 6G standards and whatnot. And he was explaining how he had just been in Spain, was in a museum, didn't know any Spanish, and all of it was in Spanish. And he just asks it, what does this say? Right? And now he's able to just, boom, seamlessly participate as if he was a native Spanish speaker. That's pretty cool. The one that got me the most, though, was an application for the visually impaired. And the way it's working now is the blind individual puts these glasses on. Can't see any better with the glasses. However, somebody can see for them. And so the app that they're using now is they do the same thing like I do with my mom, and they can have a human tell them, hey, you know, 2 more blocks, take a right, take a left, watch out, there's a crazy motorcycle coming at you, whatever. And that's great. But if you think about the next version of that, it's not going to be a human. It's just going to be the glasses telling them. And that will have a profound impact on our network. It's think about that. That is me streaming for 90 straight minutes of a soccer game, or upload the whole time, right? And that's just one application. Like I don't know whose example it was earlier about. Maybe it was you, John, talking about planning for your vacation. These things just multiply. There's just so many different applications, which I think is it's just a really important thing to think about. Now I'm going to take these off. All right. And do you think that there's an appreciation for the infrastructure needs that go with that? I don't remember who it was on the prior panel, but it was basically that people think of it more as a software issue. Like within NTIA, within the administration, do you think there's an appreciation in general among policymakers about the infrastructure side of it?
Yeah, I think there is. And I think there certainly has to be. The question is just, you know, which infrastructure, right? And I think it's going to be both and. We are going to need for ubiquitous AI for the reasons that you've just mentioned, ubiquitous data infrastructure. So It's not that we need more wireless, and it's not that we need more wireline, and it's not that we need more LEO, and it's not that we need more license, and it's not that we need more unlicensed. We need more all of it. And in fact, the only way that we're going to get there is through the usage of AI itself. There's going to come a time where, you know, we're trying to figure out, you know, how to like orchestrate frames at the edge of a band, or how to figure out, you know, what the size of a particular guard band should be. So like in other words, spectral densification. So taking it to the spectrum side of the house. And we're going to need AI to solve a few of those problems, right? We're going to need, you know, frankly, at NTIA, when it comes to just, and this isn't like really your guys' issue, because I gather probably most of you are either playing in the licensed space, or if you're in the unlicensed space, you're in like a couple of like well-known unlicensed bands. But if for whatever reason you're trying to use federal spectrum, right? So coordination with the federal equities, we should really be using AI a lot more for something like that. And if we can get that right, where else can we get it right? But it is definitely going to be, we're going to need to blow the doors wide open. And it's a non-trivial challenge. And you guys know this. And, you know, and how, like, there's only so much of it. There are physical limitations. So here is hoping that in the future, AI can help us think through the best way to sort of share. Like, you know, we think of sharing in terms of physical separation or time separation, but what about when everyone is using all of the spectrum all of the time? What do we do there? And for instance, when you guys look at like a propagation map, right? This is fundamentally two-dimensional or that's the way that we've thought about it historically. But the spectral environment is three-dimensional. In fact, it's four-dimensional. But for the purposes, for instance, of sharing a physical space, forming beams, so on, it's three-dimensional. What if I have like a point-to-point link, like I'm powering internet in that building and you're over here powering internet in that building? And ordinarily, that would be a very difficult situation for us if we're operating in it. But what if we're very good at beam forming and my beam is up here and your beam is down there? And we can find a way to make that work. AI, like I said, in terms of the air interface, especially in 6G, I think is going to be very helpful in these things, but it's going to require a lot of very thoughtful thinking that is definitely not anything that I can do. So good luck to you all.
All right. We talked about different use cases that are going to be, we think, coming because of 6G. Things like non-traditional network integration, satellite technology, Internet of Things improvements, integrated sensing and communications, or ISAC. And I think you just touched on this, but maybe just a little bit more about how AI plays a role in all of these different types of things.
Yeah. So I'd like to drill in on ISAC for a second. I don't know what the commercial application of that is, but let's say that you figure something out. That's going to be a spectrum monster. Like, you know, especially like if you're doing like real-time mapping using ISAC functionality from like a RAN somewhere. And I don't know what you're using that for. Maybe you're using that to map a spectral environment. Maybe you're doing like spectral sensing. Maybe you're doing actual physical sensing, which you can do. I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that is going to require a lot of like bandwidth and a lot of just like, that's going to be big. So, you know, I don't know how that winds up working. What I could say is, I think in general, like with IoT, so rolling the clock back to 5G a little bit. 5G is a very cool standard, but it is fundamentally it is in many ways an industrial control standard. Like ultra low latency is not something that is like consumer UE for the most part, but it definitely is for industrial control, right? As we move into further advancements in wireless technology, especially utilizing some of the native security features that are going to come baked in to 6G, again, and we're anticipating AI enabled, what kind of non-consumer applications can we get out of that, especially in the IoT space? How can we utilize the latency, the very good latency characteristics, the very good security characteristics to potentially operate industrial private networks? Like we still can do that with 5G. That's not a missed opportunity or anything. We should be running toward that. But I do think that 6G provides potentially with sort of AI-driven network management, sort of native, hopefully just greater automation. And I think we're going to need that because I think we really want to start reshoring some capabilities here in manufacturing. Like that's a very important policy goal, I think, for everybody. And I think telecom has a major role to play there, wireless specifically.
On the first panel, where we were talking more about the technical issues, one of the questions was what keeps you up at night, and the first response was cybersecurity. So when we look at 5G and the evolution to 6G and the conversation we're having around AI, is security something that NTIA is thinking a lot about?
I mean, I think it's something that everyone is thinking a lot about. It is, I can say that there are many very intelligent people in USG that think about cybersecurity. And while we certainly do care about that, we sort of care about that in our limited telecom role. We reach out to interagency partners when it comes to that issue. What I will say, though, is as useful as AI will be in securing a network, it will be equally as useful in unsecuring a network. And I don't know what that sort of arms race is going to look like, but please be prepared. Like, you only have to look to not too distant news to see how significant this question is. And it is something that, we would just ask you to be as prepared for as you can be and to take as seriously as you can, because people, sort of sitting on my side of the table, take it very seriously. And when we get news about breaches, I can say this with confidence, nobody takes it very kindly. And it behooves you to keep us out of your hair by taking it at least as seriously as we will.
Fair enough. Okay, last question to wrap things up. Just big picture. One of the things that the WIA team has talked about a lot is the sort of main word we heard under the prior administration in sort of the telecom space was broadband, right? Internet for all, right? Of course, this administration is still focused on internet for all and getting everybody connected, but clearly there's a focus coming out of the White House on artificial intelligence. And that sort of culminated in the release of the president's artificial intelligence action plan, which has a lot of important aspects to it. I would point you to Pillar 2. It's my favorite. It's about infrastructure. But from where you sit at NTIA, what is your role in administering the president's AI action plan?
So we actually have a few specifically designated remits, which maybe won't be entirely thrilling to all of you, which are open weight and open source models. We care a lot about the adoption of those. We do care a lot about helping small and medium enterprises adopt and use AI. We focus up on drones and the sort of drone supply chain. We are working on that because that has a very large spectrum component. And we do a lot of the work in sort of international advocacy around AI. Well, while that is a variety of folks do that as well, certainly at least as it relates to telecom, we do some of that. So that is where we have been designated to play. But what I can say is, well, a couple of things. Number one, we are also admonished in the AI action plan, and this isn't just NTIA, this is literally all of USG, to be using AI in our own lives, in our own work lives, right? And we're working to integrate that into the most sort of fundamental functions of NTIA in spectrum management. We care a lot about that issue. And I can say that, we want to play a sort of, I don't know, a convener where it makes sense for folks in telecom specifically to come and say, like, if you have notions around how commerce specifically or USG broadly can or should be thinking about AI in the telecom space, come to us and let us route you there. So we aren't like the lead AI agency. In fact, I think it's interesting to imagine that there would be such a thing. I doubt that will ever come to fruition, simply because that's like saying, like what is the agency of, like, I don't know, the air that we breathe. Well, I guess the EPA. What I've kind of said something deeply, profoundly stupid, and we're close to the end. So that's what you're going to leave with in your minds. What I mean is, everybody breathes. And so, I think AI is going to be totally ubiquitous in life, right? And so how do we think about AI? I guess we think about AI as one of a variety of technological and physical tools that any individual agency may use, and consequently, I think we adapt our existing regulations, our existing norms, our existing policies to accommodate AI within our remit, right? So I think that's largely how NTIA is thinking about it, undergoing an evolution that accommodates AI within the sort of domain in which we already play.
Excellent. And that's an important role that you guys play with spectrum policy, infrastructure policy, federal broadband spending policy, just broader internet governance and international coordination. The work that you and your team does is extremely important. We appreciate it. We value, WIA certainly does, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all of our members. We value the work that you individually and the rest of your team does. So thank you in general, and thank you for being here today. Round of applause for Adam. All right. Thank you, sir.